breaking news this morning, trying to relieve the pressure, a major sign that President Trump is feeling the heat of the controversy surrounding his administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. Overnight, he authorized Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce, quote, any and all pertinent grand jury testimony related to accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Bondi immediately agreed to the president's request, which seems to undercut her own department memo that there was really nothing left to see related to the case. It could be months before anything is released, if at all, as grand jury testimony is heavily protected by law and remains subject to court approval. The testimony itself would only represent a small fraction of the material collected during the Epstein investigation. Now, the president's request, coincidentally or not, came just hours after a shocking report from the Wall Street Journal that in 2003, Donald Trump sent a personal letter to Epstein for his 50th birthday. The letter reportedly contained a hand-drawn sketch of a naked woman signed, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." Now, the president has strongly, furiously, as we said, denied the existence of a letter and is now threatening to sue the Wall Street Journal and its owner, Rupert Murdoch. In the wake of all this, there is a lot going on, a lot changing over the last few hours. So let's get right to the White House. CNN's Elena Treen is there, busy to say the least. What do you see?
I mean, absolutely. And your question of whether the president asking for the Attorney General to turn over some of this grand jury testimony, or to publish it, I should say, is not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that it's coming after that Wall Street Journal report. The president is very angry about this. From my conversations last night, just after that story had dropped, it's very clear that what we're going to see today and some of the, turning of the wheels on this Epstein case is going to be a result of that anger. Now, I just want to read for you what the president posted last night directing his attorney general to do. He said, quote, based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. This scam perpetuated by the Democrats should end right now. I do want to note as well, we did see Bondi shortly after respond to that post from the president, posting herself with a picture of the president's post saying, President Trump, we are ready to move the court tomorrow to unseal the grand jury transcript. So this is a huge deal, particularly among a lot of the president's supporters who have been wanting exactly this. This is the President Trump that they want to see. They want to see some sort of evidence. They feel like they deserve more information as it relates to the Epstein case. Now, of course, it's very unclear what this would actually show. It's also, as you pointed out, very unclear how quickly we actually will see some of this, given, with the courts, it's probably going to be a lengthy process, despite the Attorney General saying that she's ready to move the court tomorrow, as in today, Friday, to unseal some of this. So still a lot of questions on what this will look like, but I will say this is exactly what a lot of the president's, part of his base, part of his MAGA high-profile supporters have been asking for. They believe that they have a right to see some of the evidence and hard documents in this case, not necessarily, the publishing of these so-called files, but wanting really to see what more there is. We'll see if this actually ends up kind of, quenching some of that thirst from his supporters.
And Elena, very quickly, this Wall Street Journal report that the White House and the president vigorously denies, what exactly does it say?
Yeah, so this report, just to get into it, they report on what they call a body letter from Donald Trump. Now, this was a letter that was apparently written for Epstein's 50th birthday that was put into a broader book. And they say that the letter is framed by the outline of a naked woman and says the letter concludes, "Happy birthday. May every day be another wonderful secret." Now, as you pointed out, the president very harshly pushing back on this. We've also seen the Vice President, J.D. Vance, as well as the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, all online going hard after this post. The president wrote on Truth Social, quote, "The Wall Street Journal printed a fake letter, supposedly to Epstein. These are not my words, not the way I talk. Also, I don't draw pictures. I told Rupert Murdoch it was a scam, that he shouldn't print this fake story, but he did. And now I'm going to sue his ass off, and that of his third-rate newspaper." So a lot in this, and we've seen a lot of other posts as well. John really trying to furiously dispute what the Wall Street Journal says was a letter from the president. We'll have to see where this goes, but I can tell you that people, again, here at the White House are very, very angry about this, and I think believing that they really want to go forward and suing the paper over this, John.
All right, no doubt we will hear more soon. I imagine Elena Shreen following a lot of developments at the White House. Thank you so much.
The president is searching for an off-ramp to the controversy over the Epstein case, which began last week when the DOJ revealed they weren't going to release any additional information, and that infuriated a lot of the president's own supporters. But the president may now be throwing them a bone, ordering Attorney General Pam Bondi to release all pertinent grand jury material from the investigation.
There's no daylight between the president and House Republicans on transparency. And he's been very clear that he wants all credible information, credible evidence to be turned over to the people so that the people can decide. We trust the American people in their judgment. And we're for that. The president is for that. And there's different ways everybody expresses the same truth.
All right, joining us now in the group chat, Lulu Garcia-Navarro, CNN contributor and New York Times journalist, Noel King, co-host and editorial director of the Today Explained podcast, and Rob Bluey, president and executive editor of the Daily Signal. Good to see all of you. Good morning to all of you. Rob, let's start first with you. The president is forcefully pushing back on this, denying this reporting outright. He obviously wants to sue the Wall Street Journal. What's your take? Do you believe him?
Well, Caroline Leavitt went a step further, and she said that they wouldn't even show the president the image, the writing. So the Wall Street Journal apparently doesn't even have it in its possession. So I think that there are legitimate questions that the White House is raising about whether or not this is a fake document. Now, we don't know. I don't have any inside intel, but I will say this. I support Mike Johnson and what he has said about making these documents public. I think that it's important for the American people to decide and see with their own eyes what the government has in its possession. And I hope at the end of the day, the president realizes that that is what he campaigned on. That is what he will deliver.
Oh, come on. I just want to say, I mean, the idea that this is a fake document coming from the Wall Street Journal and their editor, Emma Tucker, that Rupert Murdoch, whose Fox News is one of the most, the biggest supporters of this presidency, that he would publish something that wasn't rock solid is absolutely, it belies incredulity. And so I do not believe that this is fake. And I think it's going to cause an enormous problem for this president. Why? Because at every juncture, all fingers have pointed to Donald Trump in the Epstein matter. He had a relationship with Epstein. We know that he had a relationship with Epstein. And now this actually proves perhaps that this relationship went far beyond what the president himself has admitted to. And so it does cause a big problem. This has captured the popular imagination. You know, almost 70% of Americans believe that there has been some kind of cover-up. This is not a red issue. This is not a blue issue. This is an issue about power, the abuse of power, and this man who was at the center of a terrible sex trafficking ring, and the fact that the president of the United States might be implicated in that.
Yeah. Noel, like to Lulu's point, which I think is an important one, this has captured people's attention, imagination, however you want to describe it. It is something a lot of people out there are talking about. What is it about this? It doesn't seem like the president, and I think he's acknowledging this by now, saying release everything you can, but he wanted it to be done. And people just on both sides pushed back, even people in his own circle, Laura Loomer, Charlie Kirk, others who've been critical over this particular case.
I think Americans are primed for a conspiracy theory, right? Part of the reason that President Trump was elected was that many Americans feel like there is a deep state that is working against them, a government that is keeping secrets that they should, that they should be privy to. And President Trump campaigns on the idea that I am not part of that establishment. I'm not part of that corrupt establishment. You can count on me to tell you the truth. And for a long time, that really worked. The problem is he is so deeply enmeshed in this at this point that even if, I mean, I don't know whether what the Wall Street Journal has is real or fake, but I trust the Wall Street Journal's reporting. The president does not have an off-ramp at this point. I think he's going to be surrounded by this for another couple weeks at least until more information is released to the public. And even then, I mean, you ask yourself, like, at what point are people going to be satisfied that they've heard the whole truth? That's a pretty tricky thing when you're dealing with a conspiracy, right? These things, it's hard for them to die out.
And the Wall Street Journal reporting indicates this letter was sent in 2003. Donald Trump did this interview with New York Magazine in 2002. There was a profile on Epstein, and this is what he said about him in 2002. Terrific guy. Donald Trump booms from speakerphone. He's a lot of fun to be with. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side, no doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. Rob, what does the president do now around all of this? What's his next move?
Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that Bill Clinton and others who had connections to Jeffrey Epstein have all said that they severed ties with him after the allegations came out and he was charged with the crimes. So I do think that it's important for us to acknowledge that it's not just Donald Trump. There are others, high-profile political figures that had a relationship or friendship with Jeffrey Epstein.